name is Dave Ashheim. I started this company about 15 years or so ago.
And my name's Max Shelkoff, and I'm one of the senior mobile safety solution consultants. And I've been with the company for a good little while now.
Yeah. And we'll tell you a little bit about us. I started this company in San Francisco, but with COVID, we're pretty dispersed all over the country now. We've got maybe 3,000 or 4,000 clients. A lot of what we do, you can see on the screen, and we always incorporate text messaging into this as well. Max and I really got into the whole safety side probably about a year and a half ago, or about when you came on board, Max.
Yep.
And that is probably our fastest growing piece of business. So for those of you that are on the webinar today, welcome. And we are going to make this very quick, maybe 15, 20 minutes, go through quite a few different use cases, and then we'll send you the slides and off we go. Clients range from charities like CASA and nonprofits all the way up to very large healthcare organizations and even organizations like Bloomberg. So much of what we've been doing has to do with using texting to notify people, and then including a little link to maybe a mobile page. And we're going to show you some examples in a second. This is a pretty good use case. Max and I, from our clients, have got, I don't know, 10 or so to actually show you. But we have found that if you move away from email when you're trying to get the word out, and you let people use their own device, in this case, probably a phone, it could be a tablet, most of the time it's going to be a phone, and you tap them on the shoulder with the text, that's kind of what we say, it's a little just-in-time little nugget, and in many times you're going to want to include a link to something to look at. Here we've got training manuals and procedures, etc. In a second, we'll show you a QR code to actually see that in person. But that seems to be resonating with our clients, because one of the issues that you all probably have, and we'd love to see, in the chat window, everybody, if you could maybe mention some of the issues that you're seeing. I also see that Trish Ennis from Colorado has joined. She is a big-time expert, everybody, in safety. So maybe Trish, put in the chat window what you're seeing as kind of a hot safety topic. But we're finding that if you can't get the word out through some emergency alarm system, it's a real problem. And if you're trying to improve, and if you're trying to improve training, Max, that's also a problem, because people are not going to be reading emails these days. So we've tried to incorporate mobile solutions that kind of solve that. So Max and I and our engineers are very anti-app. Maybe Max, explain what that means.
Yeah. There are mobile web apps and native apps, right? And we strictly adhere to the mobile web app platform, just because native apps, which are the apps that you download from the App Store, right, in kind of the traditional sense, it creates what we refer to as this download barrier. It's just a whole nother hurdle to get people to participate in, kind of the information accessibility, right? So, in any kind of hurdle that you create for your employees or people externally, it's just another step to get over, where we can completely eliminate all of those concerns by just using a URL-based mobile web app that we can efficiently push out via text message, and boom, you click a link and there it is. There's all the information. So, kind of stick with the most efficient way possible, especially like David mentioned, when time is everything, right? So, that's kind of the difference there.
Yep. Trish, thanks for your comment. We'd love to hear from the rest of you, James and Dylan, some of your issues. I could certainly see that, Trish, with trenching excavation. There are 100 things you have to be careful about. And if you if you had a mobile guide or Bible in front of you, that would help. Same thing with emergency action plans, like Trisha's talking about. Max and I have had conversations with big airlines and little tiny nonprofits, and they're having this issue of how in the world do I get the message out to people now? I can't wait to call up my safety supervisor necessarily. This information needs to get out. So mobile is just a great way. And as I mentioned earlier, when we talk about mobile, it's texting mostly from you pushing out to your employees, your contractors, or there's a little link to some mobile content that you can control. Max, what do you want us to do on this page?
Yeah, if everybody could pretty please get out their phones and either scan that QR code, which will automatically populate a text message into your text messaging application on your phone. Right. And please do not use any kind of third-party QR code scanning app. Just use your normal standard camera application. Hover it right over that QR code and click the little link that pops up and send that text. Or you can text the words demo space safety to 56512. And we'll do it real quick.
And by participating in this, we will wipe your numbers off at the end of the webinar. So don't worry about that.
Go ahead, Dave.
And Max has got 5 or 6 little text message drips that over the next 10 minutes, he's going to send off. And when you see these on your phone, it's like, oh, I think my employees would like that, or my contractors, or whoever I'm trying to engage with. They're going to feel like there's some plan in place.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right.
So next.
All right, Max, texting. Tell us about some examples that you've seen with your clients on how texting can help with safety and really EHS.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me push an example out here real quick to everybody on the call. And we should all just have received a text message. I got it.
Yep. Let us know, Dylan and James and everybody in the chat window, if you got a text.
Absolutely. Got it.
Great.
And this is just a really simplistic idea that everybody can, relate to. It doesn't matter if it's a hurricane, a tornado, a blizzard, whatever the situation is. Everybody has some sort of inclement weather at some point, right? And it's an easy push, an easy solution to a pretty drastic situation, right? I mean, if there is a tornado, how do you know, right? Especially if you're indoors and maybe don't have access to, maybe you can't hear the sirens, or you're too far from the sirens in a manufacturing plant or something like that. But so just to kind of get the overall gist there of how simple it is, but really the capabilities with texting fall into really 3 categories here, where it's inbound capabilities, which is what I just had everybody do on the previous slide, where you texted in to subscribe to a list and be a part of this and opt yourself in, right? And then the outbound capabilities, which we just demonstrated, is a simple push of text messages notifying, hey, emergency, tornado, whatever the situation might be aware of it, right? So it's the fastest, simplest way to get that information out to the masses as quickly as possible. And it's kind of, as David mentioned earlier, email it's not, unfortunately, as effective as it once was. And what are kind of some of the statistics behind that, Dave? Do you know some of the numbers in comparison of email open read rate versus text messages?
Yeah, I've heard that the email open rate in corporate America is between 20 and 25%, and that texting is 90 to 95%. So in the case of an emergency, whether it's an active shooter or someone is having a heart attack, or there is just some emergency, there is just no better way. Go to your phone, click a button, and now you're logged into our dashboard, just like Max is. Press send to this building, send to this group, and they get the text.
Yeah, and it's to your point, Dave, in those situations, every percent of that open, read, respond counts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every single person opening that is going to count in an emergency situation. So
Yeah.
when you can drastically increase your odds by 70, 80, 90%, it's enormous. It's really, really, really important. So kind of the capabilities we went over, the inbound where you're texting in and you can get information back, and then the outbound we're pushing and talking to everybody, and then text chat is when you can have one-on-one engagement too. So if Dave were in an emergency situation and there was a broadcast sent out and Dave needed to text back and say, potentially, where's the safest spot? Someone at the dashboard could respond, go XYZ, so you can have these one-on-one engagements like that during an emergency situation. And also maybe a training aspect of, hey, can you remind me of what that latest OSHA update is, or is building C a hard hat area, something like that. And you can respond accordingly to those EHS situations. And the MMS capabilities, the last little point on that slide there, is the ability to send media. So little pictures, GIF files, small little audio files. And that's something where you can include a picture of maybe a hazard, right? So maybe in building C, there's a broken water main, or, an area they need to avoid. You can push out an image of whatever hazard or something like that. Or you can have it be fun too with the training aspects and send maybe a flyer or something. So a lot of different capabilities with texting. Anything you want to add, Dave?
Max, okay, there we go. For those of you that came a little late, go ahead and scan that code. That'll pop up a text in your phone. You can press send and off you go. Megan, I saw here, is using Engage Myself. Hi, Megan.
Perfect.
For that. Megan, in the chat window, feel free to kind of mention some of the ways you've been using the service and maybe some of the things you're thinking about for the next year. It'd be kind of fun to see how you're doing that. All right. So texting, we went through texting. I'll take this one, Max. What we found is a lot of our clients said, yeah, the texting thing is great, and I want to use that for emergencies, but I've got training manuals, I've got videos, I've got guides, I've got all this stuff, forms like Trish was talking about. How do I use mobile for that? So years ago, we developed a mobile platform, and what you're seeing here on this page are some examples. So do me a favor, everybody. Go look at the one that's above the safety. So go ahead and scan that QR code and you'll land on kind of a safety portal. And the idea here is, instead of having to talk to your web team, your HTML folks, your marketing folks, you that run safety and facilities can have your own little mobile site provided by Engage Myself and put whatever content you want. Max and I put here compliance and catalogs and new procedures. But whatever it is that you're trying to instill in your workers, load it there. When there's some new procedure, Max, you can say, hey, there's a new video about how to change the roller that's much safer. Send them a text, click the link, watch the video. I guess there's even some interactions too, right, Max, that you can add to this.
Absolutely. And why don't I send out a little text message real quick with just an example of what, receiving a text message would be like potentially.
Yeah, please.
You just receive a text message. Here we go. Boom. And this text doesn't necessarily include a link, but you can imagine having a link to your safety form, your, compliance, a link to a video that's been updated with safety standards and things like that. And it's all housed within this mobile web app, right? It's
well, then Megan's using it for
repository.
And Max, Megan's using it for open enrollment and health fair. So there could be, a link to sign up for the health fair, or it could be a survey. How do you think we're doing with safety? Do you have any concerns? Are there some areas of our building, our factory, or our facility that maybe we should take a look at? They're not going to walk up to you and they don't even know who's in charge of safety. But you send them a text like that,
Exactly.
you're gonna get some responses.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good example too, Megan, is, you know, sometimes when these organizations get scaled to a certain size, if I have a simple question like, you know, which health provider can I go to? I don't even know who to ask, like to Dave's point, you know. So, and just kind of relatability with the safety too, you know, the standards are changing constantly. And to have the ability to update these standards to the masses instantaneously is an extremely powerful tool, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, that's one of my
Great.
favorite aspects of the mobile
Yep.
app. Yeah.
And if you haven't scanned the other QR code, go ahead and do that. That's a different application, probably a little bit more closely aligned to what Megan is doing. How many of you, if you could just type in the chat window, how many of you wear a couple of different hats and have something to do with HR? Obviously Megan does, but let us know in the chat window if you also have a foot in the HR department. All right.
You wear, Dave.
Not too many.
That's good.
James, thankfully, no. Yeah, that's right, James.
Exactly. That's right.
Stay away from HR. A couple of use cases here. Big university came to us and said, we have tornadoes and hurricanes and all kinds of things that are happening. Yes, we're a big university, but I want to control my own destiny. We've only got 50 people in our office, but I have their phone numbers, but I'm not going to sit there and load them in my own personal phone. So they have signed up to use our service. They've uploaded in an Excel file, the phone numbers and the first names. They're not going to use it for HR and these other things. They're just going to have it there in case that there's a hurricane or tornado warning, or there's some event going on, Max. That's what they're going to use it. So I would think all of you on the call, if you have more than 10, 20 people in your facility, it would be nice to have this as kind of an insurance policy that you could kick off from your computer or your phone.
Yeah, and I just pushed out a text message kind of with one example relative to campus notifications, and all things forbid. I mean, if there is an emergency situation on a campus, we know every single second counts in those kinds of situations. So again, just reiterating, timing is everything. So just having, you watched me, that took me, 2 seconds to push that out to everybody on the call. So super important.
All right. Another example is a big organization that has not just one building, but 8 different buildings. And they have historically had muster stations. Anybody on the call familiar with muster stations? I guess you have to work in big buildings for that, but let us know in the chat window if you are. They had us build a platform that allows for the assigning of whoever's in charge of that building. And everybody in that building then would go out and meet in their little muster station. And so whoever is the captain of that emergency, it could be a fire alarm or something, could go right down the list. Here we have Jason Smith and James Madison and Andy Davis. So they can check, make sure that they've been accounted for. So all these little bells and whistles can be added to these mobile experiences.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So this is an example of, obviously, in large facilities that have many vehicles coming in and out. This is a big manufacturing facility that utilizes our platforms. Like someone had mentioned in the web chat earlier, having a fillable form is crucial, and it kind of alleviated their big problem of all of these delivery trucks bringing raw materials into the facility all day long. Were getting clogged up in line and weren't following the rules. Maybe they didn't know what the rules were. They were getting out of their trucks and arguing with each other and causing ruckus around and things like that. And the solution was, just imagine, Dave, you're driving a big old 18-wheeler full of raw materials, and you go to pull into this facility. First thing you do before you even get into the facility is you scan a QR code, up pops a little fillable form there that says, "Hi, I'm Dave and I drive for XYZ and I'm going to obey this rule. I have my hard hat. My truck is properly equipped to be in this facility," and just understanding and acknowledging all of those safety concerns and rules before you even enter the facility. And then even cooler, once Dave hits submit, the security guard at the little desk, and you can see the example in that little screenshot there, they can type in Dave's phone number and look him up and say, "Hey, Dave, you answered, everything is right. You're good to go, buddy. Approved for entry." Versus if maybe Dave missed a problem, or Dave was like, "Oh, shoot, I forgot my hard hat," and he didn't check that box. The security person at the gate kind of checking these drivers in can say, "Dave, how come you didn't answer your hard hat question?" And Dave goes, "I forgot it. I'm sorry, guys." And the security guard can address that problem as it happens. And if there is a situation potentially where Dave isn't agreeing with policies, the security guard can just press one button, deny entry, and the EHS manager for that particular facility gets notified saying, "Hey, you need to go chat with Dave and see what's going on." So it's really an all-encompassing kind of liability and safety control aspect for facilities that have a lot of traffic in and out all day long. So really neat solution there.
There's even quite a few clients, Max, that ask everybody in the company to read a little bit about their safety protocols and answer a few questions. If I see this, what should I do? Call Don, the safety, whatever it happens to be. And then there's an acknowledgement where I can either use my finger to approve or I can sign it. So at least there is this feeling that the company is concerned about my safety. And what a great way to share that with me personally through my phone. Max, we've got a question from Brittany. Do you want to take that one?
Is there a way to add a clickable phone number somewhere on a page like that? Yes. So if you want to go to the next slide, this will kind of hit home on that. So here we go. This is another large manufacturing facility that uses it more of, like I had mentioned earlier, Brittany, of a repository for all the information that's really crucial that, people need access to readily. And one of those is training managers, right? So if I'm an employee or a visitor to a facility and I have a question, I can click on that, training manager, EHS manager, and click to dial. So absolutely a capability that's a super common use case, right? And that's a good point, Brittany, of just kind of one of the solutions that they provided in this manufacturing example is streamline the onboarding process, right? So if you're onboarding 40, 50 people at a time, I might not even know who to call, who's my training manager, who's, this person responsible for that. And all of it is housed in that one location, right? So the onboarding process, it's filled with many little tasks, right? And they kind of all get shoved into as quick as a possible time frame as you can imagine, right? And in this example, it's really interesting. They utilize both the texting and the mobile web app. So imagine Dave gets hired at this facility and we have 2 weeks before his start date even happens. He'll receive a text message saying, "Hey, Dave, we're so excited to have you start at our facility. Click this link to start your onboarding process."
Right.
And Dave can go through and complete his onboarding checklist, his safety checklist, all these things before he's even been to the facility. And to Brittany's point, if he has a question, boom, there's my click to dial. So I can say, "Hey, Dave, I got a question," and it's addressed really, really easily and simply. But yeah.
And then whenever you want to make changes, you just make the changes on the mobile site. And the next time somebody taps that link, whether it's on a PC or their phone, the fresh version is there.
Absolutely. Good point.
All right. That's about the material we wanted to cover. We want to keep it to 20, 30 minutes. We have, as I mentioned, very large organizations and smaller organizations as well. If some of you want a demo or learn a little bit more, Max, you're going to send out a text, I guess.
Yep. I'll
And
send it right now.
Max is going to send out a text that allows you folks just to reply. And when you get that, if any of you want to chat about any of these services or want to try them, we can set up a little demo account for you. But thanks for joining us. Okay, I just got that text.
Perfect.
So feel free to, if you want to, just reply to that text. We've got Max's number here.
Yep.
Trish,
you can click that link and it will automatically take you straight to our calendar, and you can book a time that works best for you, whatever's easiest.
We'll also maybe Trish has been one of our speakers on a couple of different occasions. Maybe when we send out this presentation, we'll include one of the presentations that Trish has been on. Thank you, Trish, for that. And we'll stick around if any of you have questions. And like I said, if you want to have your own little demo or discovery chat, go ahead and put in the chat window your name and phone or email, and one of us will reach out to you and schedule a little time. So we'll hang out here for a few minutes, but thank you so much, everybody.